What is going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. And now that we've got a week's worth of gameplay from Battlefield 5, I thought today I would give you guys my initial impressions off of what classes I'm looking forward to playing the most and which classes I'm looking forward to playing the least right now, and try to give you that range between those 6 classes, the 4 being the infantry and the 2 being the vehicle classes. And then you guys can tell me how you guys feel, what classes you are looking forward to playing the most. And if you want to give me a list, you can go ahead and do that. I think it will be pretty interesting because we've got a good enough first impression from the pre-alpha, even though there will be a lot of changes, I'm sure, from here on out. But let's just dive into the least interesting class I'm looking forward to diving into in Battlefield 5. And that is actually the pilot class. Now, this could be, again, of course, part of me being biased. I didn't play a lot of the pilot class during Battlefield 1, but if there was a time for me to play it, it probably should have been Battlefield 1, as we're seeing a pretty big nerf for that class, especially with the whole attrition theme taking place, not just for infantry but for the vehicles as well. And just by the looks of it, this seems like the pilots are really going to struggle, especially with the addition of the mobility of the AA guns. I think that one there really pushed it right over the edge for the pilot classes. I know there's been a good substantial amount of people that have been calling for a buff for those classes, so again, we're very much into pre-alpha here, and this is, of course, you know, my opinion, and it of course will differ from your opinion. So it's not to knock on pilot classes saying, oh, it's not a good class to be using, but something I'm not really looking forward to. Now, when I was making this list, I knew what the number 1 class was going to be that I was most interested in playing, and I knew what the least interested class I had on the list, which was the pilot class. But all the other ones in between are kind of all tied right now. Again, we're in pre-alpha, so maybe some alpha gameplay may, you know, spread out the list a little bit. Not quite sure, but these are all kind of tied right now. I'm not really sure which one is above or below the other one. But the next one here is the scout class. It's pretty interesting to see the hitbox for the headshots being expanded. It's a little bit larger now, and it looks like from my initial impressions of the gameplay I'm seeing that headshots are much easier, so that is pretty interesting to note down. Of course, you know, we have that sweet spot mechanic from BF1 that's not coming to Battlefield 5, but it's just interesting to see the hitbox for the headshots being expanded, as it does seem like, even though you're losing that sweet spot mechanic, that the scout class is getting a buff. But even without that, I always think scouts and playing with the sniper rifles is always fun in like every game, so we'll be looking forward to playing with this one. But moving on to the next class, which is the tanker class. This is one that I played with quite substantially in BF1, but not quite sure what it's going to handle with the whole attrition theme, just like the pilot class. Not sure how well the tanker class is going to handle this, and I think we're not going to see as much of an impact with the vehicles as we did with BF1, so it does have me very curious how it will hold up, as I did enjoy playing with the tanks. It was always fun every once in a while to jump into some vehicle gameplay. It's what makes Battlefield in my opinion, and part of the reason why I play it is because it is fun to take a break from the infantry, you know, classes, and then jump into a vehicle of sorts. So I did like jumping into the tanks more than the planes, but with the whole attrition theme, kind of up in the air with it. We'll see what happens from there. Next on my list is the support class, mainly because of the builder tool and how the support class can utilize that tool better than the other classes. So maybe I need to dedicate a video on how I'm not quite sold yet on the builder tool for the other classes, but for the support class I do find it pretty interesting because of the speed that you can build with it, as well as what you can build. So you can build a little bit more with the support class, things like machine guns, and if the meta of Battlefield 5 becomes more of a defensive meta, that will be pretty interesting if you're able to build things like machine guns and just kind of post up, defend that post, and mow down enemy players who are trying to push the front lines. So makes me pretty intrigued to see how that will play out. Again, up in the air, we still got a lot to find out from here, but because of that builder tool and, you know, how you can build a little bit more and a little bit faster, has me pretty interested. And the final class out of this whole tied for second list here is the Assault class. Now that's a class I played with the most on BF1, and definitely a really fun class to play with, but I played with it so much on BF1, I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have a change for BF5. But at the same time, I'm very familiar with this class, and I see similar gadgets like the dynamite returning, and seeing the kind of buff that it has now, being able to actually stick onto enemy vehicles, makes me pretty intrigued, as there's nothing more satisfying really than killing a vehicle and watching this completely explode and getting some multi-kills with all the enemy players that are gathered up in the vehicle. So it's always fun to play with the Assault class. But number one on my list is the Medic class. Now I have two reasons for this. The first being the attrition theme affecting tanks now is make me believe that the tanks won't be as impactful as they were on games like Battlefield 1. And so because of this, I won't have to jump on the Assault class as much and use their gadgets, and instead I can have a trade-off and use the Medic class and use those rifles, which I normally enjoy playing with most. So that would be pretty cool to see if that ends up being the case. But even not, this other reason here I think is going to be pretty interesting to see it being played out, and that is the attrition theme for the health being effective for the soldiers, as you're seeing a lot of players dying left and right really fast on the battlefield. It's making people question what the TTK is like, and as far as I'm concerned, it hasn't changed up really anything. It's just people's health bar when they take their damage and it falls too low, it's not restoring all the way back up to 100. So it's making me think that, man, the Medic classes have it really nice being able to drop some bandages down and get your health up to 100. And so from my first impressions so far, it looks like that is really affecting the battlefield. But again, we're really early on, we're in pre-alpha, but I would be curious to hear your guys' thoughts. What are your first week impressions of the new gameplay coming out for Battlefield 5? Would be curious to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What reasoning you guys have off of what makes you interested in some classes and not so interested in others. But that is it for you guys today. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. I am Livin', and I'll catch you guys again later.